Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be doing an album review. I'm going to be taking a look at this record today, which is Woodface by Crowded House. So yes, I'll just be doing my usual thing in this video, giving a bit of background information about the album, showing you my vinyl copy of it here, and then looking at each of the album songs in detail. This review was actually requested by a user called Daniel2. So yes, thank you very much, Daniel, like I assume that your name is, for requesting this video. So yeah, this was Crowded House's third album, released on the 1st of July in 1991. Now, the genesis of this album started during the tour for their second album, Temple of Low Men, where I think during a break, in the touring for that, Crowded House band leader Neil Finn started to write some songs with his brother Tim Finn. Now they had a bit of a past. They were both in a band called Split Enz, in the late 70s, early 80s. Tim Finn, I think kind of formed Split Enz himself, and then Neil Finn, who I think is about a good 5 or 6 years younger, joined. We can let you into the band, younger brother kind of thing. But then basically Neil Finn ended up taking over Split Enz. He wrote a big hit for them called I Got You, which gave them, I think it was a top 10 hit in America possibly, suddenly Neil Finn now was the leader of Split Enz, and kind of Tim Finn just lost a bit of interest in it. And then so they basically got back together, started to write some songs with the thought of making an album as the Finn brothers. But then separately to that, after the Crowded House tour had finished, Neil Finn and his two Crowded House bandmates, bassist Nick Seymour and drummer Paul Hester, started working on a third album. However, they got so far into the process, but their record label Capitol were not impressed. They thought the standard of the music they were recording was just not very good, and essentially rejected a lot of the material. So Neil Finn, in an act of perhaps desperation possibly, but also as it turned out, a genius idea really, decided to ask his brother Tim if some of the songs that they had been working on together and this prospective Finn Brothers album, whether he could use some of those songs for the next Crowded House album. And Tim basically said yes, but on the condition that he could join Crowded House as a full-time band member, which they agreed to. Crowded House were expanded to a 4-piece for this album. So it was produced by Mitchell Froome, mixed by Bob Clearmountain, and the album compared to the earlier Crowded House albums, definitely has a slightly more acoustic, sort of natural feel to it. There's definitely less synthesizers and other kind of bells and whistles on here. A lot of the instrumentation is quite quite stripped back, but is also very it is still a very well produced album this though. And in terms of commercial success, it was a bit of an interesting one, this album, in their native New Zealand / Australia, because I think Neil Finn and Tim Finn are from New Zealand, but I think the other two members are Australian, so they're kind of they're band who sort of straddle two camps. But basically, in their native homeland, it was a big success, reached number 2 in Australia, number 1 in New Zealand, and was also very much their UK breakthrough of an album where it reached number 6 on the charts here. Very much in contrast to their earlier albums, which had both failed to crack the UK top 50. However, in an interesting turn of fortunes, in America, this album was not successful, which was as I said, a turn in fortunes, because the first 2 albums had been pretty successful actually, particularly their 1986 debut. But then by the time you got to this one, in America, they just didn't want to know about Crowded House anymore. So it was a surprise flop, only reaching number 83 on the US charts. And I said, very much in contrast to the first 2 albums, which were both like top 40 hits. And critically, like at the time, it was a like well-revered album. Like got a lot of like kind of like positive reviews. But also kind of like going forward, I think has been widely regarded as probably Crowded House's best album. It was featured in the book 1001 Albums to Hear Before You Die, and listed at number 3 on a list. I've not noted down like the publication here, but like number 3 like on like a list of the 100 best Australian albums. So just to complete the kind of story of this album, essentially the reunion between the Finn brothers in terms of like a Crowded House context was short-lived. Essentially, like they went on like a short tour, like to promote this album, and I think there was maybe some kind of personal tensions between Tim Finn and some of like the other band members, and kind of live also, like sort of Tim Finn was basically relegated to kind of playing keyboards like a lot like off at the time. So I think he felt that it wasn't too rewarding being like a full-time member, so like he would leave before their next album, and like essentially like halfway through at the tour. But it was perfectly amicable, I think, between like the brothers, because they would do an album in 1995 as the Finn Brothers. So anyway, I will show you my vinyl copy of it here. I got this a good couple of months ago, I think, at a record shop in Liverpool. So it is an original pressing, this one here. It's still got some of like the kind of like the high, like Andy's record, $7.99. That's not quite what I paid. I paid a teeny bit more than that, but still got a pretty good deal on this, which is a lovely like original pressing there. So there's like the band members there. So yeah, you got like there's Neil Finn, and then his brother, like slightly like older brother Tim there, Paul Hester, and Nick Seymour there. So I do like the cover actually. Like this was actually designed by Nick Seymour, who also like fancied himself as a bit of a graphics designer, and quite a good one as well actually, because that is a good cover. There's no fancy like in a sleeve or anything with this particular copy. It's just in a plain sleeve on the Capital Rainbow label there, which is quite nice. So yeah, I will just now go over each of the songs on the album. Can I have another piece of chocolate cake? Okay, so the album kicks off with the song Chocolate Cake, which was the album's lead-off single, and isn't actually one of my favourite tracks like on the album, like it has to be said. I think it's a bit of a weird opening song, I think, and I just think it's quite a satirical song, essentially sort of attacks like sort of like capitalism and the greed of those like who already like have everything, and just and there's also some quite pointed lines sort of specifically targeting like American excess. It's got a kind of like sort of quite playful musical like arrangement on it, but I just think it's a bit average musically. You know, it doesn't really strike you as okay, wow, this is a great album opener. I just think it's a bit like run of the mill like musically, and as a single as well, it didn't perform too brilliantly like as like the lead off track. So it did reach number 7 in New Zealand, but only number 69 like in like the UK, and was also like a complete flop like in like America, like again possibly because of like lines such as the excess fat on your American bones will cushion the impact as you sink like a stone. So like Americans there like obviously did not take too kindly to those lines, and yeah, like it's probably one of the main reasons why this album just didn't really succeed like in America, because it had a weak like first single. It's only natural that I should want to. Thankfully, the album does get into gear with the next song, which is It's Only Natural. Now, this is a really strong song for me. It is so melodic, and great harmonies on it as well. This is one where the Finn brothers sing together, and they sing together really well. It's got great echoes of like just classic. I was gonna say kind of classic British music like in that way. So like the Beatles, like I hear like a lot like on here, but also Squeeze as well. Like sort of like particularly like Neil Finn and Tim Finn's vocals very much have a kind of different Tilbrook sort of vibe, with one with Neil Finn like having quite a sweet sort of ear pleasing voice, and then Tim giving it a slightly more not rougher, but certainly singing like a lot lower like in like his register. and like a lot more of like kind of like an earthy tone, so sort of like the like sort of like the Chris Difford kind of like figure like in like Crowded House. Really great vocals on here. I love like the tone like of like the guitars like on here. I think are really nice, clean sounding. It's a great combination of like acoustic but also like some like electric work going on, and the lyrics are really good like on this song as well. Essentially about the kind of like a couple who are sort of like trying to find like a resolution, like sort of like after like a fight, possibly. Things like ice will melt, water will boil, you and I can shake off this mortal coil, it's bigger than us. And yeah, just about like like how like sort of like a relationship like should feel natural, like it's only natural that I would want to be there for you, sort of goes like the chorus and that. Now this is a brilliant song, like I said, a 10 out of 10 song, and really should have been the first single, and was actually earmarked like as like the first single because it was released to some radio stations I think in June of 1991, so like a whole month before the album came out. But then for some reason they never actually decided to release it like as a single, sort of like commercially, like until December of 1991. I think if this had been the first single proper, the album would have had like a lot more success. But like as a single though, this did pretty good still. Reached number 15 like in like Australia, 31 in New Zealand, and 24 here in the UK. So it's only natural. Really, really, really great song. A 10 out of 10. Next one up on the album is Fall at Your Feet. Now this is a potentially kind of sappy kind of love song, but one I think is so well done that I just can't help like really like enjoy it. I love the production on this, where I think it's still quite soft, but then there's also like I think like the drumming's quite forthright and like forceful, which provide a really solid foundation for a great song with great harmonies going on. Like I love again it takes its time, this song, and like the bit where it goes like the finger of blame has turned upon itself and I'm more than willing to offer myself. That whole bit where Finn's voice just goes on like a kind of like a different tangent, it's just a really kind of like magical moment for me. Now this one was one which was written solely by Neil Finn, and as a single it did pretty well. It reached number 17 like in like the UK here, where it went silver. It went to number 24 like in New Zealand, where it went platinum, and number 31 like in like Australia, where it must have been pretty much like a slow burner like off like a song, because it went triple platinum like eventually. And like in like America it got to number 75, so another like US flop there. But a great song with Fall at Your Feet. Really, just a lovely love song like for me. Okay, next up on the album is track 4, Tall Trees here, which is a bit more of a kind of rockier song, a little bit more like off like a driving beat like to this one here, which apparently dates back to their first album. They had it like lying around, or certainly like the idea for it like kicking about, and it's a really good song, this one here. Some great catchy guitar lines which remind me a bit of a fellow New Zealand band called The Chills. It's got that kind of, it's not quite psychedelic, but it's quite a reverby sort of like guitar tone, which I just really, really, really love. Again, a single-on chorus on this one here, like that Tall Trees line, like is like quite like catchy, like and hooky. And again, some great production on here, like some like nice like keyboard bits like thrown in like as well, just sort of keeps it like quite like an interesting song for me. The lyrics are good as well, about sort of sticking close to like your roots. He sings like don't wipe the salt from your skin, and sort of like lines like such as that. So it's like a really good song, this Tall Trees. I think would get a 9 out of 10. You can fight the sleep, but not the dream. Okay, and then we reach track 5, probably the most famous song on the album, which is Weather With You, which is an absolute certified Crowded House classic. One of the all-time classic songs, really, like I would say. Apparently this was the first song that the Finn brothers wrote for this project, or like what was the initial Finn brothers album project, and they thought, oh wow, this is good, like we'll write some more. And it's just a really good song. I think it's got a great narrative on it, lyrically sort of tells a story like of like a man who's sort of feeling trapped at home, has desires to travel. He sees there's a great line about like a small boat made of china is going nowhere on the instrumental piece, and then uses the kind of weather with you, like everywhere you go, you always take the weather as the kind of like, you always carry like your like emotions with you sort of thing. And it's a really good song, this one here. I think production wise is really nice. The guitar tones are great. There's some great it's almost like a sitar guitar I think they're using like on it. Just sounds absolutely fantastic. I'm giving it 10 out of 10, but my only gripe with it is the structure like of like the song. Like, it's a little bit weirdly structured, this, because you essentially get a verse, a bridge, a verse, I think another bridge, and then the chorus just repeats until the end of like the song. So it's a really odd structure, this one here. And I think maybe if they'd used the chorus a little bit earlier, like in like the song, it might have maybe not seemed quite as repetitive, because I think like the chorus goes around about like 3 or 4 times like at like the end, and I think maybe by sort of like the 3rd or 4th time you're thinking, okay, this is maybe getting like a bit like repetitive here now. But other than that, it is a great song, you know, like it is a gem, like off like a song, this. And yeah, it was a big hit single for them. So this was actually the 3rd single they released from the album. So there's a lot of singles that came like off of this. But yeah, the 3rd single, and it was the most successful. So it reached number 27 in Australia, number 9 in New Zealand, and really successful in like the UK, where it got to number 7 and went platinum in all of those countries. So yeah, Weather With You, amazing song, really good stuff there. Okay, next up on the album is Whispers and Moans. Now, this is a decent mid-tempo album track, I'd say. It's a very smooth kind of song, this one here. You know, there's no rough edges or unfinished bits on it. You know, it's just a very good, smooth, like sort of like, yeah, quite radio friendly, like sort of like production on it. Solid drumming. I quite like some of like the cymbal work that Paul Hester's doing like on this one here. And a quite like dynamic arrangement as well, where like, yeah, so like the verse is quite low key, but then like at like the end of each chorus you get a slightly, I'm not sure what instruments it is, like if it's maybe some brass going on possibly, but like at like the end of like each chorus you get like some I think it's brass flourishes, and then some other kind of clever vocal parts like as well. I mean, like as a song, it's maybe not a favourite track like on the album for me, but I do really enjoy it though, like when it's on. So yeah, Whispers and Moans would get an 8 out of 10.
Like 4 seasons in one day.
Okay, next up is 4 Seasons in One Day, which closes off side 1. This is probably going to be my most controversial take for the album, because this is again usually considered one of the most popular, most well-known songs of the album, but I just think it's a little bit boring for me. 4 Seasons in One Day. It's quite a moody song, which kind of complements the lyrics quite nicely, which are essentially using the kind of famous saying like, oh, like changing weather, sort of 4 seasons like in one day, to sort of like someone's sort of like ever-changing moods, like to quote like another song. But yeah, it just doesn't feel, it's just never been like a favourite Crowded House song of mine. It just feels a little bit boring, and yeah, I don't know, this song just doesn't really grab me. As I said, this was another single from the album, not quite as successful as the previous ones, reached number 47 in Australia and 26 in the UK, but no, like another top 30 hit for them. So they were really like definitely one of the more successful bands like off like their time like around like this album.
There is a God, why sinful angels?
Okay, now we flip over to side 2 of the album, which starts off with a song called There Goes God. Now this one again is another album track that I do like when it's on, like I wouldn't skip it, but I'm just not super crazy about it. There's a lot of like harmonica like all over this song, and some nice guitar tones as well, particularly like the introduction, where you've got you've got some interesting drum pattern going on, and then some great like I think it's sort of like overdriven guitar like on it. It's a little bit shoegazy actually. It reminds me of a song by one of my favourite bands called The House of Love called Cruel. The introduction of this, and just the introduction really reminds me of like that song, although that came out maybe like a year or two after like this album. But then yeah, like sort of like beyond the introduction, I just don't think the song kind of really goes like anywhere too much. I mean, the verse like is like quite chilled out, and the lyrics again are quite like satirical about sort of describing God like as sort of like a superficial figure, and like in like his sexy pants and his sausage dog, and how God is sort of envious of Beelzebub, like aka like Satan. He sings like because he looks so good in black. I mean, musically a bit run of the mill, and lyrically just doesn't quite grab me. Again, it's a very literate, very kind of clever song like I suppose, but just not one that particularly grabs me. Okay, Next Up now on the album is called Fame Is, and this is a much more rockier number, a real kind of like if like you listen like through this album, like sort of like not side one and side two, but listening through it, say like on streaming, you know, you've had a couple like maybe 2 or 3 slower numbers, but Fame Is like is just a real great injection like of energy like to the album. Again, very strong Squeeze vibes on here. You could easily imagine this song fitting on like the Argy Bargy album, and again like Neil Finn vocally just sounds like Glenn Tilbrook's doppelganger. It's just absolutely, you know, you could be forgiven for thinking like you are listening to Squeeze I got here. Lyrics are really good as well, about a kind of apparently about like a hippie cult who pretend to be sort of getting like enlightened and sort of like spirituality and all that, but are actually just sort of like in it like to get famous. He sings like, love children of the new age, just a hippie with a weekly wage. There's no rebellion, just a chance to be lazy. When fame is in your blood, you follow the science of love. It's a really good solid rocking song, this one here, Famous, and I would give it a 9 out of 10. And then we take a much softer direction on the next one, which is a song called All I Ask. Now this one is very much a gear shift like on like the album. This is almost like an old standard, you know. It's kind of there's a lot of strings on it, very kind of syrupy kind of like vocal crooning from Tim Finn. I think this is his only lead vocal like on the album, and just a very kind of soft, kind of croony sort of song. I don't mind it like on like the album like again, but I just think it's maybe it doesn't either doesn't quite fit or just doesn't quite grab me sort of thing. Lyrically, it's possibly about sort of someone like who's ill and is maybe sort of wanting to sort of like make the most like of like their life sort of thing. Like he sings like, don't leave me here, oh please let me stray far from familiar things. And again, like it's decent on the album, but probably not one that I would play out with the album.
As sure as I am, I couldn't care.
Next up is a song called As Sure As I Am. Now this one is another pretty good album track for me. Some interesting musical choices like on here with I think it's like an accordion like is like in light the arrangement, and then sort of like at like the end of each chorus you get some distorted guitars, which again it sounds quite disparate, but it all really comes together quite well like on this one here. And it's definitely, I would say, a slow burner like off like a song. I think originally like I was going to be giving this like another 7, but you know, like I've increased it a point because it has kind of kind of grown on me. I think it's quite a dynamic song. The kind of shift between like the low-key verse and then the more sort of celebratory chorus, and the lyrics I think are like really good like as well. It's about kind of someone who's kind of blocking out sort of bad things like in like the world, but possibly like naively he sings like, I couldn't care less for what might go wrong. I'm as happy as sin in a fear-shaken world. So it's a really good song, this one here, like As Sure As I Am. Like I would be giving it an 8 out of 10.
When you wake up with me.
Okay, next up on the album is called Italian Plastic. Now this is a song which was written by the drummer Paul Hester, which is always a bit of like alarm bells going off like when like you hear like the drummers wrote a song, but this is actually a really good song actually. Like again, it's got a kind of humorous sort of like low-key kind of feel to it, stripped back, lots sort of music with sort of each like instrument like you can hear like quite clearly. Some great guitar work like on like this one here, and then just some great like harmony vocals what sort of build up like around the song, both like on like the chorus, but also but also on the instrumental interlude, where it just feels, it feels a little bit psychedelic in places, this one here, but just a really nice, pleasant song. And like again, like sort of like the verses kind of, quite tongue-in-cheek about, like I brought you plates from Rome, and you said they look pathetic. Oh, like I've like not noted down like the exact like lyrics here, but like I do quite like them. Yeah, like they're quite fun lyrics on here, and musically is a very rich song. So yeah, Italian Plastic for me, really good track there, a 9 out of 10.
In her soft wind, I will whisper. In her
Okay, and then the penultimate song on the album is called She Goes On. Now this one is another softer track. I think by this point, like on the album, it really settles into this kind of nice, easygoing kind of like a bit like acoustic, but just very pleasant kind of groove. And this is an absolute highlight, like on the album for me. It's a really beautiful song, written by Neil Finn. Like after like he was, I think he was asked to write this song by someone who had lost who like had lost I think like one of like their friends or something perhaps, and they kind of I think Neil Finn must have known this person, so he wrote this really beautiful song about someone who like essentially died, and it's like he's sort of like it's a very reflective song. He sings like, "This is the place that I loved her, and these are the friends that she had. Long may the mountain ring to the sound of her laughter." So it's just a really nice song about remembrance, and how someone, I guess, if they pass away, they're now sort of, I guess, like at one with nature sort of thing, like like the elements. Just a really beautiful song, both vocally, musically, like arrangement wise. So yeah, She Goes On, a real again hidden gem on the album, will get 10 out of 10.
How will you go? How will you go?
And then the last song on the album is called How Will You Go. Now this one is an okay closer for me. Again, it's possibly not one of my favourites on the album. It's another song about death, this one here, but about like this time like of like a sound engineer I think the Finn brothers knew, and essentially like this song essentially like that person like they wrote it about and like killed themselves. So it's got songs like Escape Is On Your Mind Again, Escape to a Faraway Land, At Times It Seems There Is No End, To Long Hard Nights of Drinking. So it's a quite sort of brutally kind of honest song, like I think. It's not a skipper like by any stretch of like the imagination, but just doesn't feel like a kind of special or noteworthy like album closer for me. And then after this song finishes, we get a couple of minutes of maybe like 30 seconds or so like of silence, and then it ends with about a 40-second snippet like of like another song called I'm Still Here, which is a kind of loud and in your face, like abrasive kind of rock number. Feels a bit odd, like an out of place, and just doesn't really, again, just it's very much just tagged on like the end of like the album for no real reason for me. So yeah, How Will You Go, like overall would get a 7 out of 10.
Round the world, it's a tangled up necklace.
Okay, so overall this album would score 84%. So I think this is a really, really, really strong album. 14 songs, and doesn't really like let up. Like there's no real like ugly ducklings or like real weak links like on the album. I think every song like on here like is like worthy really. It is it's probably Crowded House's best album. And I think definitely having Tim Finn like involved like on here, it makes it unique like in like their discography. But like just in like the sense like of I think like the songwriting like has a real sharp focus to it, but also the harmonies and the shared vocals on here like just adds like another layer like to Crowded House, which was perhaps maybe slightly missing from some of like the earlier albums. It's very much an album like of two halves-ish. You got like side one, which has all the big singles on it, and as I said, like some really, really big singles like Fall At Your Feet, It's Only Natural, Weather With You, all brilliant, amazing, iconic songs. And then side two just really then settles into this kind of softer, slightly more low-key kind of like acoustic affair, which is just really nice. And like as I said, like even though it is 14 songs, maybe about I think it's about 48-50 minutes this album, there's very, very, very little filler like on like this album. So no, it's a fantastic record here, Crowded House and Woodface. So yes, I hope you have enjoyed my review of it. I will be interested to know what you think of this album down below in the comments, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.
I feel like I'm moving inside her.